This conference will now be recorded.
And on behalf of the GLT coordinator, Lion Shirley Cattell Hendricks, past council chairman, Progressive Melvin Jones Fellow, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the 5th workshop in this series for incoming officers in Regions 2 and 3. I invite you now to join me as we say together the Lion's Prayer. Where lions meet, be present, Lord, to weld our hearts in one accord. To do thy will, Lord, make us strong, to aid the weak, to right the wrong. Amen. This workshop will focus on the role of the Secretary, and it is my pleasure to introduce the facilitator, Lion Leandra Lewis, who has been a member of the Lions Club of Antigua since 2017. She has served as the club's secretary for 2 consecutive terms and will be serving as the club treasurer and assistant coordinator for the LEO program in District 60B, Region 2 in the upcoming Lionistic year. Leandra was the recipient of the New Voices Award in Leadership in 2018 and the President's Award in Leadership in 2019. She's a graduate of the University of the West Indies and holds a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. She also holds a Master of Science in Psychology from Walden University. Professionally, Leandra has worked for several years in youth development and is a psychologist and counselor. She is also a part-time lecturer at the University of the West Indies, and I will now invite her to facilitate the session on the role of the Secretary. Leandra?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Well, yes, is that a yes? Okay, great. So welcome to your training session for Lions and Leos Club Secretaries. We are going to be covering some very important basics. As you know, the Secretary is almost the backbone of the president's term. You have a successful secretary, you have a successful presidential year. So our objectives for this evening would be the characteristics of the club secretary, the responsibilities of the club secretary, meetings, minutes, and agenda, using my LCI and my Lion, and how to have a successful year. So we're going to start off first with a little icebreaker. And in the little chat on our screen, you can identify what is your favorite fruit. And then we're going to see what your favorite fruit says about you. Someone has pineapple, mango. See a few pineapples here. We have a lot of mango lovers, and it is mango season, by the way. Somebody said all. Okay. All right. All. Okay, so for those of you who like pineapple, so you are quick to decide and act. You have exceptional organizational skills. You're undaunted by big tasks, self-reliant, sincere, and honest. Slow to make friends, but you keep them for life. For those of you who are mangoes, you're forced to be reckoned with, opinionated, and not easily swayed, analytical and influential, have a tendency to take control of situations. If you are a coconut, you're serious, thoughtful, and contemplative, very particular about the company you keep. You can be very stubborn or shrewd, quick-witted, and alert, and always well informed. For those of you who are papaya, fearless, give considerable thought to what you do, great sense of humor, generous, you have a generous nature, a go-getter, very professional, and enjoy meeting people. Give me a second here. All right. So those of you who are bananas, you are soft-hearted, loving and gentle, warm, sympathetic to the needs of others, vulnerable, sweet disposition, and you can be easily taken advantage of. Now, all of these are great characteristics in their good and bad ways, and these are some of the characteristics that we come across when we are secretaries. So, another question. What are some characteristics of a good club secretary? You can give me some suggestions in the chat. What are some good characteristics of a good secretary? I see efficient, reliable, analytical, well organized, okay, detail oriented. I see that we're taking one trend here, professional, pleasant. Okay, all right. So, organized. A secretary has to be organized. It is a lot of information to deal with. You take care of all the clerical work and then some in the club organization. So you have to be very organized. And remember that this is also volunteering and you also have your personal lives to deal with. So you have to be organized. You have to be efficient. So there are certain things that you have to carry out that needs to be done in a timely manner, and we have to be able to do that efficiently. You have to be methodical as well too, meaning that you should be able to prioritize from most important to least important. There are some things that you would have to give priority to based on deadline and based on when it's needed for. You have to be reliable as well too. The president depends a lot on its secretary. And there are going to be times when you have to be pulling the president up, holding the president up, doing everything else that everybody else is not doing. That is the secretary. You also have to be a team player. You're going to come across many personalities. Every single member in your club has a different personality, and you are not going to like some of them. You have to work with them. You have to take them as they are. And so you must be able to be a team player. It's not about you, it is about the organization, and we should be able to separate our personal feelings from the business of the club. You should have good interpersonal skills. No one likes a secretary or a member of a board that they cannot approach. And given that you deal with a lot of clerical and record keeping and the business of the club, you should have good interpersonal skills, and persons should want to approach you with any situation. You should have good written and oral skills. If you know that you're lacking in this area and letter writing is not the best thing for you, then there's no problem with seeking help or asking someone to assist you. But as a secretary, you should be able to speak in public, and you should also be able to write a letter, especially when you're writing letters to sponsors. So we're going to be looking at our club secretary responsibilities. What do you do? You organize and attend all club and board meetings. You should be knowledgeable of the LCI and district constitutions as well as the club bylaws. You are the walking dictionary for the club. So you should be aware of everything that is happening at the district level, at the international level, and also at your club level. receive and respond to club correspondence, promote club, district, and LCI events and activities. You, as a secretary, will be receiving a lot of information on behalf of the club, especially when it comes from district and international regarding events that are coming up. And it is your responsibility to ensure that you share and you promote these activities that are happening within the organization. Keep the records of the club in order. That includes your minutes, your committee reports, the directory, the constitution, and the bylaws. Complete and file all monthly reports with Lions Club International and submit these reports as required to the district governor's cabinet, be it your zone or your region chairperson. And a little later, we will be going into My Lion to see how you submit a report and how you make these monthly reports. These monthly reports should also be given at your board meeting, and it's just to ensure that you have a record of everything that has been happening in your club on a month-to-month basis. The attendance of Lions at general meetings, the attendance of Lions at your service projects, recording your man hours, or any other activities that you deem important for record keeping and for the history of the club. You are to be an active member of the district governor's advisory committee of the zone in which the club is located. And we all know that our clubs are divided into regions, and in each region there are zones. So what is the district governor's advisory committee? What are the functions? So as a secretary, you sit on this board along with the president of the club. So you work along with your zone chair to ensure that clubs operate efficiently and follow the association's constitution and bylaws. You also discuss ways of helping clubs that need assistance with membership growth and leadership development. So there may be a club in your zone that is having problem with their members. Then, we all get together to help them with best practices situations. Promote attendance at district and multiple district international conventions, and promote club functions and events such as installation of club officers, induction of new members, or ceremonies honoring key award recipients. So at the end of the year, the president will have the President's Awards. You are also responsible for ensuring that you have the 100% attendance of Lions or members who would have achieved certain milestones to present at your installation. You're also responsible for ensuring that there are kits ready for the induction of new members. All that will fall under your responsibility as a secretary. So we're looking at preparing for our meetings. What should you do at these meetings or before the meetings actually happen? Sorry. So you have to coordinate with the president all the items that are to be discussed and create an agenda in collaboration with the president. So this is your agenda. So you have to be in touch with the president to find out what are we going to be discussing at the board meeting? What do we need to discuss at the general meeting? And based on that, then you prepare your agenda. You should then notify the board or the general membership or individual committee chairpersons of the scheduled meeting. So notice has to go out that there's going to be a meeting on the particular date, time, etc. And you let them know what the agenda is going to be. You have to be ready to record the minutes of the meeting in detail to provide business history of the club and establish ground rules with the president to avoid confusion at board meetings or general meetings. And in this case, we follow the Roberts Rules of Order. So if you're not familiar with how that happens, I suggest that you Google it and look up the Roberts Rules of Order and know exactly how meetings are to be conducted. As the secretary, you are responsible for keeping order at a meeting and keeping the president on his or her toes when certain matters are being discussed at the meeting level, especially like if a motion has been moved. Then once a motion has been moved, there is nothing else there to be discussed than to deal with that motion that's put on the table. So there are certain things that we need to remember when we are dealing with our general meetings and our board meetings. Minutes. Now, this is a very interesting area because there are different ways that people record minutes, but there are general rules for recording minutes. You should only record what the club does and not what members said. So you should not be saying, Lion Carl said, you look whatever. No, we are dealing with a matter. A matter was discussed. If a person made a suggestion, yeah, then that person made that suggestion. But not every single thing anyone says in detail needs to be in the minute. We record what decisions have been taken, what was said, and how we are going to move forward, as in your action points. So if there is a debate on a topic, this is considered informal and it should not be recorded. So if we spent 20 minutes debating whether or not we should raise club dues, then every single person who got up to speak does not need to be in the minutes. It's noted that there was a discussion on the raising of club dues. Whoever moved the motion should be placed in the minutes. Whoever seconded it should be placed in the minutes, and you should record what the vote was. So here we are. Record the name of the member moving the motion. The seconder is optional, but it is recommended. And if the motion is carried or lost. So successful motions voted into policy are carried, adopted, or sustained. Avoid using the word passed. Motions not carried are lost or defeated. So we should avoid using the word failed. We're looking at attendance. And this is very important to a lot of members because at the end of the year, we all want to have our 100% attendance award. So as a secretary, you have to keep an accurate log of attendance. Attendance may be taken verbally, in silence, or members sign an attendance sheet. A quorum is the minimum number of members required for the transaction of business. So the secretary must announce whether or not a quorum exists. Now, based on your club bylaws, you will know what constitutes a quorum because every club is different. Some may say half plus one, some may say 2/3. So based on what your club bylaws dictate, then that constitutes your quorum. A policy should be in place to make up missed meetings as necessary. We have makeups. I'm not sure if other clubs have that as well too, but there are makeups available for persons who may not be able to attend a general meeting, but they are able to do makeups if they attend a service project or another committee meeting during that lianistic year. But it has to be within 14 days of the general meeting. Okay, we are now going to go to My Lion, and we are going to do some demonstrations there. So we're looking at membership changes, add a service activity, reporting club officers, add new members, shopping for supplies, updating member information, plan service projects, and connect with Lions. Now this one here is one activity that can be very daunting, especially if you have not logged into mylionsclubs.org. Now, if you have not done that, you need to do that as soon as possible because this is where most of your reporting for the Lionistic year will take place. So before you take up your role as secretary and you're having problems logging into mylions.org, please speak with your current secretary so she can help you or he can help you with this. So by the time you take over on the 1st of July, it is not going to be an issue. So we are here now in mylions.org, and I'm going to my member login. So this is the page that you should see. Welcome to your Lion account. And then you sign in. Okay, so once you have successfully logged into mylions.org, you will see my LCI, my Lion, shop, etc. So we are going over here into my LCI first to manage your membership. Can everyone see my screen?
No, we can't.
Yes, I can.
Yes, please.
You can?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. So on my screen, you're going to see my Leo's clubs, my Lions clubs, my district, my multiple district. As a secretary, you have access to all of these. So we're looking here in my Lions club, and you will see members. So the list of members will show up. You will see that there are 62 active members for the Lions Club of Antigua. Above that, you see add member. Now, if you have inducted a new member into the club, then you have to add a new member. So you will go into add member. It has an option for new member, returning member, or transfer member. Based on whichever one you select, then the page will open for you to enter the relevant information there. There's some information that you must enter in order for the information to be saved. Now, when you are entering the name of the person who sponsored the lion, you have to be very careful and ensure that you select the correct individual. Because after 3 months, that document becomes permanent and you cannot change the name of the sponsor. You're able to update or edit the member, but you are not able to change the name of the sponsor. So ensure that when you're selecting the individual who sponsored the new lion into the club, you select the correct one. It cannot be changed after 3 months. Now, every month, you have to go into my LCI, you have to go into members. The same right next to, okay, all right, it's up now. Right next to where you see add member, you have report no changes for month. So it has here, the only month I have to report for is June 2020. If there are no changes that occurred in the month of June, then I would go into report and click report. Now, as you can see, for all 12 months of the Lionistic year, the Lions Club of Antigua has reported its membership count. So there have been no changes. Now, if by chance, before the reporting period ends, which is the ending of the month, and there are changes to be made, I can make the necessary changes. But then once I've completed those changes, then there will be a prompt to ask me whether or not the report should be updated. You click yes, and it will make the changes in terms of your membership report. If you need to find out your club info, you go back into My Lions Club option as well too. You will there find your club officers, your district officers, information on conventions, your statements and your dues. So like the treasurer, the secretary can also view whether the club owes monies to Lions International. The only thing is that the secretaries aren't allowed to pay the Lions International dues. Payment can only come from the treasurer. So if we're making any purchases on Lions International as well too, the only person that can submit payments on behalf of the club is the treasurer. But the secretary can view these transactions. In My Leo's clubs, it's similar. You can add members, you can view their club officers, etc. So we're here looking at officers. It's going to be the same for Lions as well too. So we're here now viewing the officers of the Omega Leo's Club. Now you can select a term, whether it would be the current year or the next year or past years. So if you want to see who were your officers in previous years, then you select that and you'll be able to view that information. In My Multiple District, you're able to view your officers for your district. So this is the current district officer team. As you can see, the district secretary treasurer. And as you scroll down, you will see that information there again. Now we're going to be looking at how you submit reports to Lions International. My LCI, you should remember, deals with membership matters. Okay? So when you go into My LCI, is for reporting your membership matters. Now we will go into My Lion for your reporting. So we're back at the interface again, and you click on My Lion. Page is taking a while to load. Okay. So when you go into My Lion, the first thing that's going to show up is your stats. So it tells you how many persons you have served to date, the number of service activities that you would have completed, and the cost of funds that were donated. So we go into report past activity. On this page, you would already see activities that you would have reported. Now you're going to be adding a new activity. So you will click on the report button. Here, you will add an activity name. So for now, I'm going to go with food packages distribution. It shows you your activity level. So you're operating at the level of the club, multiple district 60. We are in district 60B, and the name of the club is Antigua Lions Club. The creator would be you as the person who's entering it. So you would see my name here. The activity duration was just for one single day. So the start date of this activity, you have to enter the date. You select your activity type. So this was a service activity. It will then ask you if your activity is a signature activity. Yes, you will click that. If not, then you don't. Was your activity funded by an LCF grant? If it was, then you click that. If not, you don't. Then it would ask you the cause. And these are the causes. Food package distribution would fall under hunger. It asks you the project type. So there are options here, but if it does not fall under any of these, then you just select other hunger service activity. Number of people served. So you would have an idea of the number of persons you would have served in this particular activity. In our case, total number of volunteers. Now, this particular area tends to give people a lot of trouble in terms of calculating the man hours and the volunteer hours. You are to calculate the number of volunteers, whether it be non-lions, Leos, or lions present. So if in total there were 50 persons involved in this particular activity, then you put it in 50 persons were involved in the activity. Sometimes it will ask you to specify non-lions or Leos, or how many lions were actually present at the activity. So the total number of volunteers and your volunteer hours. Now your volunteer hours are calculated the number of volunteers present times the number of hours the project took to execute. You also have to take into consideration the preparation prior to the actual activity. So if it was that 5 persons were initially involved in the planning of this activity, you would have to count in the number of man hours they had put in prior to everybody else coming on board. So the number of meetings they would have had. If they had 5 meetings and there were 5 persons present and each meeting was 2 hours long, you have to calculate the man hours for that, and then calculate the man hours for the actual date of the activity with the number of volunteers. And then you add those together and you get your total number of volunteer hours. So man hours aren't just calculated based on the actual activity itself, because obviously there would have been preparation time going into the planning of the activity. So make sure that the organizers or the committee that's responsible for planning the activity make note of lions or volunteers who would have been present at the planning meetings and the number of hours that they would have contributed to the totality of the particular project that you're doing. So we enter the man hours. It asks you, who can see this? Everyone. So when they say everyone, it means every single lion who is registered on My Lion can and view your service activities. You can also restrict it to just your multiple district or just your district being 60B or just your club. So based on what you select, only those persons can view it. But you want everyone to see what you're doing. So everyone sees it. Then you and that is how you report a past activity. Now you can also preempt a future activity where it says plan future activity, meaning that you will enter the information of an activity that is going to happen, the basics. And then after the activity is completed, then you go back into that activity, fill in the rest information, and make that report to My Lion. And so it will show up within 24 hours of you posting it in your report. It's also important to note as well too that clubs can make purchases on the club website, well, on Lions International website, but there are only 3 members of the club who have the authority to make purchases on behalf of the club. That will be the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. So whenever you go into the shop option and you are purchasing items, they will ask you if you are purchasing as a officer of the club, meaning are you the president, the secretary, or the treasurer, or are you making a personal purchase? If you're purchasing on behalf of the club, then you will select one of those options. Either you're the president, the secretary, or the treasurer. If you are making your own personal purchase, then you will select the option where you are paying for it. Because what happens when you make a purchase based on the president, the secretary, or the treasurer, it is billed to the club. There's no upfront payment at that point in time. So it is a debt that the club will have to pay to Lions International. But as long as you're not the president, the secretary, or the treasurer, that option will not be available to you when you go into the shopping option on the Lions website. There's a lot of information. We are not going to be able to cover it this evening. So I urge you, especially when it comes to My Lions website, take the time to go through it, be familiar with it, because that is going to be your best friend for the next 12 months. So you should be able to navigate through it. And like I said before, if you have not been able to register and you're having issues, please do that before your term begins, because once your term begins, Lions International will be contacting you. They're not going to be contacting the previous secretary. So if you're missing report dates and they have not been receiving any information from you, they're going to be contacting you. And the previous secretary is not going to have the ability to make any changes or make reports to Lions International. We're going back. So how do you have a successful year? like I said, there are many things that you need to do as the secretary. And so you have to start planning from now. So within your first 30 days of taking up office, you have to maintain the club roster. Now, you do not have to go writing every single person's name on a piece of paper or create your own register. A register is already provided to you in My LCI. So once you log into My LCI and you click on membership, or you see the membership reports or statuses, there is a club roster there for you already printed with all the current members and their membership number, IDs, and other information as you need. You print that and you keep that when you're doing your attendance at meetings. Now you have to set up a system to retain business records, the minutes, the committee reports, your finances, and decisions taken by the board. Some clubs have laptops where they store all that information, like at Lions Club of Antigua, we have a laptop for the secretary and there's a laptop for the treasurer. So all the clerical information are saved on those particular laptops. So it's easier for us to just hand over to the secretary and the treasurer, and all the documentation will be there for them to follow through. You have to update your contact information, and I suggest that you do this prior to your term beginning. You and the incoming president send out a notice to your general membership that your directory is being updated. Ask any member if there are any changes that need to be made. They need to let you know. So by the time the new term begins, then the directory is ready for members with all the updated information. Also ensure that you include your district officers, who's your district governor, etc. Make sure that information is there as well too. The district governor's song, whatever pertinent information that needs to be in your club directory, ensure that it's up to date and it is current, because you also have to present one to your district governor when they come to do their official audit. So make a list of members who may no longer be active and bring their names forward for review prior to December 31st and prior to June 30th. Now, the one prior to June 30th definitely will fall on the outgoing secretary, but at some point you are going to be the outgoing secretary as well. The reason being that once you've passed these deadlines, Lions International bills you for whatever names that are on your roster. So whatever members you have registered with Lions International will be billed on the 1st of July and on the 1st of January. So if there are members who you need to delete from your membership record, that needs to be done prior to these dates, because after that, you are going to be paying 43 US dollars for people who are no longer members of your club. And then you'll be ending up paying 16 US dollars to the district for members who are no longer a part of your club. So you work along with your club president as well to establish your event calendar and use the LCI calendar as a guide. LCI has a list of events that occurs every year. All of this should be a part of your club calendar to ensure that you are not missing important activities that are being observed at the LCI level. Also ensure that you have information about any pertinent activities that might be happening at a district level as well too. But then in order for you to know that information, that the commissions within the district also have to be functioning and sending out the pertinent information about these activities. This is within your first 30 days. So your monthly reports. Prepare for general and board meetings. This happens every month. Some board meetings are once a month, general meetings maybe twice per month. You have to prepare for them. Prepare agenda and minutes for these meetings and distribute as appropriate. And ensure your committee reports are submitted monthly. It is a task, it is a challenge that you always have to be on the case of your committee chairpersons to submit their report. Without their reports, you have nothing to report to international. And so you have to be working along with them to ensure that your reports are submitted on time within the first 5 days of the new month. It is a challenge, it is a task, but like I said, it has to be done. You have to be on their case. Some of them, they will lapse. You have to ensure that you get your monthly reports from your committees. And you have to ensure that you submit your monthly reports to the district and LCI. Once you submit your reports to LCI, then your district will be able to see what you're doing. If they're not going to see anything, they're going to contact you and they're going to want to know what's happening. So you have to ensure that your monthly reports are being submitted. Your quarterly tasks. So every quarter you should prepare a secretary's report. And this will be presented to your general membership. Remember I said your secretary's report is basically a report of everything that has been happening at the club level or at a district level or at international level throughout that particular quarter. It also helps in terms of keeping a record of activities that have been done and knowing what you need to report to international and what needs to be on file for future reference. You also assist in the quarterly preparation of the zone report. So zone meetings are held quarterly. Your presidents are expected to give a report as to what is happening in the club quarterly. You have to work along with your president in terms of providing that information that they're going to need to present. The same with the treasurer in terms of the finances of the club. So you do that quarterly. Annually, it is your responsibility as a secretary to prepare the ballots for elections. Once these names have been given to you by the nominations committee, then you prepare for elections, and that elections are usually held in April. Once elections have been held, you have to report the new incoming officers to LCI by April 15th or directly after elections are completed via My LCI. So you go back into My LCI, you have the option, once you go into My LCI, it's there, report new officers, or you can click on your club and you can click on officers and enter the new officers for the upcoming year. But you have to do that by April 15. If for any reason your club had to delay elections and elections happened directly after the elections, you have to submit those names. So once we have district or MD conventions, you have to submit the list of your delegates to your cabinet secretary treasurer so they know how many delegates will be voting in that particular convention or at that convention. You also have to submit the registration forms of your delegates. And you have to process the documents and local club endorsement of members running for higher office. So if by chance that particular year your club has a member who will be running as the second vice district governor, the first vice district governor, or the district governor, you are responsible for ensuring that the club endorsement, meaning that the club fully supports the nomination of this particular member of your club to your district. So you have to ensure that if you have any member that is running for office, that your club endorsement is submitted to your district, your cabinet secretary treasurer. So your year-end checklist, you have to complete award applications, whether it be the Excellence Awards, the 100% attendance, whether it be your Chevron Awards. You have to know when members have reached these milestones, and you have to submit these applications to Lions International for them to prepare whatever necessary awards they have to do for these particular members. Now you have to prepare your documents to train your incoming club secretary. You can't just not orient them into the position and wait until June 30th or July 1st, and then you hand them a document and said, good luck. You have to let them know of any outstanding matters that need to be dealt with the new incoming board, if there are any payments that are to be made, etc. You have to do that with your incoming secretary. You have to prepare the bank signatories letter for the incoming board of directors. As you know, the signatories change year to year. Some members will remain, some members are going to be removed. You have to prepare that letter. So by the time that they take office, the banks are aware that these persons are the new signatories to the account. Don't leave them hanging. So then you also have to make necessary amendments to the Constitution and bylaws, if any. So if during the course of the year that there were any changes made to your Constitution or your bylaws, then you have to ensure that that's updated and ready for circulation in the new year. Any questions so far? Okay, I see one here. How do you make the correction for the membership? Which membership are you referring to? That was Lion Ernie. Lion Ernie, are you still there?
Yes, sorry. Hi, good evening.
Which membership are you referring to?
Sorry?
Yes, you said, how do you make the correction for the membership? Which membership are you referring to?
Yes, you had said that if you entered the membership for June prematurely and changes happened after, you would go back and change it. So how do you go back to correct that?
Okay, so you would have reported to Lions International that there are no changes. You would then go back in, make that necessary change. So if it is that you're updating a member's information, you're adding a new member, you go through as normal. Once that is finished, they will prompt you and ask you if you are making this change. Once you confirm that the change is made, then Lions International will make the updated changes for your membership report for that month. So you just go into my LCI, do whatever change you have to make, save it. Once it's saved, Lions International will automatically update your membership report for you. So then I also see that you have that we do caroling at 3 times a week in reporting. Yes, you do report each activity individually, because the first time you may have 10 members with you, another time you may have 15, the third time only 5 members showed up. You have to report each activity individually and record the man hours as is. Are there any other questions?
Line Leandra, this is Line Carl from Seva. I had a question. When
Hi.
you talked about being able to make corrections, just some time back we dropped members, and we could not drop on the date we wanted to specify specifically. It didn't allow us to do that at that time. So we picked a date that was a few days in advance of that. Can you go back and change that to the proper date?
The dropped member?
Yes.
That member would no longer show up on your roster. So they're no longer there. At this point, Lions International has already recorded that you dropped this individual and they're no longer part of your membership. So you can't go back to change it unless you call Lions International directly to make that change. But at that point, it's not relevant, because for them, that member is no longer part of the club. So whether you had dropped them last week, 2 months prior to, they're no longer part of your register.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, there's another one, Leandra from Line Gifter, and she's asking whether you can go over the calculation for man hours.
Okay, no problem. This is always the ticklish part in calculating man hours. So man hours are calculated based on the number of volunteers present at the activity times the number of hours the activity lasted for. You also have to calculate the man hours in terms of preparation to the actual activity. So for instance, I'm going to take the Lions Club of Antigua. We would have our annual prostate screening in August. Now, prior to that, meetings would have been happening since, say, June or July for that particular event. Meetings are happening every week. So every week, you have about 15 members of the Lions Club, along with representatives from the other organizations, whether it be our medical benefits, our insurance companies, our doctors who are going to perform the screening present at these meetings. Every time you have a meeting, you have to record the number of persons present at that meeting and the length of time that meeting lasted for. So one time we had 15 members and the meeting lasted for 3 hours. That is 15 times 3. That's 45 man hours there. The next week, we only had 10 members and the meeting lasted for 2 hours. That's 10 times 2, 20 hours, etc. Now, on the actual day of the screening, of course, you're going to have way more lions and way more volunteers. Everyone who was directly involved in the execution of that particular activity has to be included. So if on the day medical benefits sent 15 of their workers to work in terms of checking the blood pressure or their diabetes, their blood sugar level, you have to calculate them as well. You have to add them in that final total. If on the day 40 lions showed up, 15 Leos were present, you had 10 doctors present, then you had the phlebotomists, you had 5 of them present, you had insurance companies who were there. Anyone who was directly involved in the execution of the project on that particular day has to be added. So say in all, you had 65 persons involved, whether it be lions or volunteers. They have to be added. The project lasted, the activity lasted for 7 hours. You then have to multiply the 65 by the 7. That was for that day. But then now you also have to add all the previous meetings that took place leading up to that particular activity. So it would be the 65 times the 7, you get that answer there, plus your 45, plus your 20. If you had another 30 hours of preparation, you have to add all of that. That is the total man hours that was dedicated to that particular project. So you're not just counting the actual date of the project, you're counting all the man hours that went into the preparation and the execution of that particular project. So you find sometimes that some clubs are underreporting their man hours because not consider the fact that, yes, we may have had this activity on this particular day, but there were several meetings and several man hours put into the preparation of that particular activity. So everything from beginning to end, you have to calculate your man hours. Now, there's another thing when they're talking about the value of your project. Lions and Leos are calculated at a rate of 30 US per hour. Non-lions or professionals that you would have had to pay to be a part of your activity are calculated at 50 US per hour. Now, if you had a volunteer who was not paid, then they are calculated at the same rate as a lion or a Leo, because they're volunteering their hours. But if you've had professionals who took part in that activity that came at a cost, then you have to calculate their rate at a higher value. Any other question? In determining quorum at a general meeting, do you exclude someone who is working? What does your bylaw say about what is a quorum? Does a quorum constitute 1/2 plus 1 of members present at the meeting, or 1/2 plus 1 of your total membership? That's where you're going to have to refer to your bylaws. And then in terms of taking decisions, what does your bylaw say about business decisions? Do you have to have 2/3 majority, or do you still follow the same rule, 1/2 plus 1?
There's another question, Leandra. It relates to the submission of the MMR report. What is the latest date that the secretary can submit same?
The 5th of every month. The 5th of every month. If you do nothing else, ensure that you report to Lions that there's no change for the previous month by the 5th of every month. And also, I cannot stress this enough, ensure that your committee members submit their reports, especially when you've had a major service activity. You need to get that report into Lions International as soon as possible. Because what happens if months go by and your committees are not reporting? Guess who's left with the responsibility to sit down in front of their computer to input all of this information? You, the secretary. So to make life easier for you, ensure that your committee chairpersons submit their report. If they don't submit the full report, at least ensure that they give you the statistics. So the number of persons who are present, the number of man hours, the value of the project, like a brief description of the project. You should have pictures that you're able to upload onto the site as well too. So if they're not presenting it, then ensure they give you the statistical part of it so that at least that can be there, and then they can give you the full report for you to put on file. Any other questions? No? If not, then I am going to post chat.
There's one other
question.
How many pictures can you upload in your service report?
Lions International seems to have restricted well, before it was 1, but you can submit more than 1. So once you're submitting your report and they have the option for pictures, then you submit your pictures. They recommend not to submit more than 3 because sometimes it makes the file very heavy and it will not upload as quickly. So don't put a lot of pictures. 3 pictures are suitable enough. They just need to see that you actually did something and that you're not just reporting that you did an activity with no evidence. Yes, as I was saying in the chat, I just shared a quiz on SurveyMonkey to see how much you remember throughout this presentation. So you can click the link and do your quiz. Remember, there's a lot of information for the role of the secretary. Please do not be afraid to ask questions. Rely on your previous secretary. Rely on Lions International. Play around with My Lion and My LCI so that you are familiar with what you're supposed to be doing. I'm guessing by the silence, everyone is trying to complete their quiz.
Nice. I think we can see some action there.
Hello, how do I find where the quiz is? This is Lion Hazel.
In the chat.
It's in the chat.
It's right there in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Survey Monkey. Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks. I'm not finding it though.
Leandra,
Hi.
you have them studying for an exam there.
So.
Can't get anything done here.
Anybody got 100? Okay, I see one person said yes, they got 100. Someone said almost.
Just let me answer. I got 100.
Someone got 90. I'm seeing a lot of scholars here, 90.
Hello,
100.
Lion
So
Hazel again. I haven't been able to see the document to put the information in at all.
You haven't received the link?
No, I haven't received the link.
Line Cynthia
Did you
reporting.
click in the chat for the presentation?
Sorry?
I was asking if you had checked in the chat. The link was placed in the chat. I just sent it again.
And Hazel, what device are you using? A computer or cell phone?
A computer.
Oh, it should be very easy for you to
Computer?
see. On the top right-hand corner in the window, you should see a red
on the top.
Participant.
Yeah, top right-hand corner. You should see a red bubble with some numbers there.
You mean the number of persons?
No, it's
to the right of that.
Yeah.
Right next to it.
Yeah.
Right next to the persons, you would see one in the middle.
Where the dots are?
No, just before the dots, there's a wheel, and then before the wheel, there is an icon.
like a bubble or a cloud.
Yeah. Let me see if I can send it to you personally.
If you weren't clued in already by the animal skins he's looking for, we're cavemen. Most days we spend in our cave, in the dark.
Let me know if
Night
you receive
after
it.
night, day after day. Yep, home sweet home.
I still haven't found it.
Okay.
I can send it after.
Do you want me to post
All
it
right, thank you.
again?
I'll email it after.
Thank you.
This is Lane Cynthia. I'm having the same problem. I'm not finding it as well.
Okay, we'll send it out after.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll send the link with the presentation so you can do it. You're welcome. Okay, so this is your last chance to ask questions after you've done your test and you need any clarification. Now is the time to do so.
Okay. I don't see any further questions being posted in the chat. And so before I invite Lion Desiree to move the vote of thanks, just wanted to remind everyone of the sessions that are happening tomorrow, the workshops beginning at 2 p.m. There's the first session for Leos and Leo advisors that will be facilitated by Lion Shonda Ford, PMJF. Then the next session for committee chairs will be facilitated by Lion Wendy Labari, MJF. The session on membership will be facilitated by Lion Leroy Hines, MJF, and that will take place at 4 p.m. At 5 p.m., we have the session for all LCIF coordinators, and that will be facilitated by Lion Monica Felix. So we're encouraging all sitting presidents, all immediate past presidents, all persons who are interested in that post, please sign up and we look forward to seeing you. And then we bring the sessions to a conclusion with the 6 p.m. session, which is going to be facilitated by Liam Beatrice McDonald, MJF, and that one will focus on PR and communication. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Please encourage your members to join us. I now invite Lion Desiree Edwards, incoming president for the Lions Club of Antigua, to move the vote of thanks on behalf of the 90 persons who participated in this session.
Thank you, Lion Sandra. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, Lions and Leos on this call. On behalf of everyone present, I'd like to thank Lion Leandra for this very important and highly informative presentation on the roles and responsibilities of the club secretary. Those of us listening appreciate you taking the time, Lion Leandra, to share your expertise and to educate us. It was certainly a lot of information, and I'm sure we will all become familiar with my LCI and my Lion. I'm sure this information that we've gained will also be applied as we fulfill our roles going forward. I would like to thank also the organizers, the GLT team, for organizing this initiative. It has been most timely and very refreshing to meet and learn in this format. And lastly, I'd like to thank all of the participants, the attendees, for joining us this evening. Your presence indicates your interest and your commitment to Lionism, and I know we as a region will be stronger for it. So thank you, everyone. for a wonderful experience. Good evening and have a great weekend.
And
Good
thank you, Lion
morning.
Leandria, again, and thank you, Lion Desiree. And thanks again to all those who attended and participated in the sessions this afternoon. I'm sure we had all productive sessions. It was good learning environment. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So all that's left for me to say is have a pleasant evening and see you 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night, all.
Sometimes. I like to.
Good night.
Good night. Now, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Night, night.
Good night, all.